In our increasingly fast, casual, ultra-Instagrammable and foodie-centric age, the notion of fine dining has definitely changed. But there's still some commonly practiced etiquette in place at the most upscale of eateries. We're serving up the sauce on what to do the next time you find yourself staring a swan-shaped napkin in the face.
Hello, may I help you?
You can sure as hell try.
When it comes to fine dining, potential faux pas begin the minute you're seated at your table. Of course, you're going to be eager to pore over the menu, but curb your enthusiasm by keeping it on the table. Founder of the Plaza Hotel finishing program, Micah Meyer, boned up on the intricacies of fancy restaurant etiquette with a former member of the royal household. Meyer revealed to Food and Wine, "In formal dining, the menus should always be touching the table in one place."
Excellent choice. Thank you.
She acknowledges the temptation to lift the menu up and bring it to your face, especially if you have trouble reading tiny print in the dark. But she stresses that no matter what, some part of that menu must maintain contact with the table at all times. Having mastered the proper way to wield your menu, you're now likely inspired to order something from your server. Some diners are intimidated by waitstaff and others are given to server domination. But regardless of where you fall on the confidence spectrum, there's a right way and a wrong way to communicate with those tending to you. When Best Life compiled a list of fails committed at fancy restaurants, it turned to Patricia Napier Fitzpatrick, an expert at the Etiquette School of New York, who identified raising your voice to get the waiter's attention as one of the worst of them all. She says, "Unless someone is choking on his or her food and you're too scared to administer the Heimlich yourself, you should never, ever yell across the room at a waiter when you need something." In a less catastrophic context, the guru recommends communicating via subtle eye contact. If your best attempts at come-hither glances are missing the mark, she concedes that you can throw up an index finger as an added hint. But nailing the right cue is particularly important if you're the one hosting the meal. According to Napier Fitzpatrick, the person hosting the meal is the one responsible for getting the attention of the waiter so that everyone can order.
That's good.
Once you've got the waitstaff in your orbit, you're ready to order off that fancy restaurant menu. But before you take the plunge, you need to make sure you're on the same page as your dining companions regarding how few or many courses you plan to devour. The internet is rife with specialists warning diners to order the same number of courses as their fellow diners. And according to BuzzFeed, the rationale behind it is to avoid the awkwardness of anyone sitting with idle hands watching you eat.
I'll have the tornadoes of beef. The lady will have the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Even once you've matched yourself course by course with your companions, it doesn't mean you can relax and give in to your hangriness. Fine dining is like running a marathon. You need to pace yourself. Business Insider recommends taking your time and pausing after every few bites so that no one feels rushed. Patricia Napier Fitzpatrick calls out guys in particular for sprint eating, telling Best Life, "Some men just gobble their food down." But in the event of poorly paced pigging out, the expert offers some tips on damage control. If you find yourself emptying your plate before your companions and you still have a few crumbs of food left, place your silverware in the resting position. This strategy allows you to pretend that you're still eating, even if you're thinking about dessert. In an upscale restaurant, ordering drinks can be even more rule-bound than ordering food. According to Yummy, you shouldn't order a beer unless it's a speciality of your chosen restaurant. So, with brewskis off the table, you can better focus on wine, a libation that's associated with a cellar's worth of do's and don'ts.
This one's good. What's it called again?
White wine.
Freaking love it.
First things first, submit to your sommelier. Because chances are you're nowhere near as big of a wine expert as you think. And according to Micah Meyer, you should refrain from swirling your wine around in the glass and then going in for a sniff test. Even worse is drinking when the sommelier pours out that initial bit for you to try. As noted by Man of Many, the sampling is so you can ensure whether or not the bottle is oxidized or corked. Since a sommelier will have already verified this, it's really just a formality, and you should give them the permission to pour. If you don't want to imbibe, clue in your server or sommelier discreetly. According to Lanzerac's Fine Dining Guide, moving your glass out of reach or covering it with your hand is bad practice. To signal you've had enough or only want half a glass, just say when. Before taking a sip of the wine that was just poured, you'll probably want to toast something. But regardless of whatever you decide to drink to, under no circumstances should you clink when you raise your glasses. Not only can clinking crack or even break fine glassware, but as Micah Meyer points out, in very formal dining, the less noise we make, the better. And if someone graciously offers a toast to you, don't cheers yourself.
Raise your glasses to the couple of the decade, Doug and Lillian.
Once you finally get the rim of the glass to your lips, you've officially sealed your fate. According to Maya, all subsequent sips should be taken from the exact same place on the glass so you don't completely encircle the rim in chapstick or anything else. You should also always put your glass down in the exact same spot from where you picked it up. When you want more wine, and duh, of course you will, Lanzerac advises never handing your glass to the waitstaff. During a pour, only your server should ever be holding your glass. Admittedly, there are some pretty creative things you can do with a napkin, from wrapping gifts to creating a stylish bandana for your dog. But at a fancy restaurant, napkins are for one thing only: dabbing your mouth. As made clear by Listverse, never wipe your mouth with a napkin, you should always dab. And don't even think about placing or spitting a bone, seed, piece of fat, or anything else into your sacred cloth.
I don't want to be critical, but this is very chewy.
Cool. You're eating a hand towel.
Upon first sitting down, you should immediately unfold your napkin and place it on your knees. According to the etiquette scholar, unfolding must be done in a graceful single motion. Tucking it into the front of your shirt or into your pants is never acceptable. During your meal, if you have to get up, carefully place your napkin on your seat. And if you happen to drop it on the floor, it's okay to pick it up unless a server is available to replace it. Once you've made it through the entire meal, you can finish up by placing your napkin to the left of your plate, never on your plate. Breaking bread is not just some random expression. It is literally what you should do when confronted with the good stuff at a fancy restaurant, as opposed to taking a knife and slicing it.
I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty.
Bread etiquette unexpectedly goes against the grain of what would seem to be the thing to do. Forsaking all civilized cutlery, simply tear a bite-sized chunk off with your fingers before replacing the roll on the small plate to the left of your place setting. If you don't have a side plate, place your bread directly on the table to the left of your plate. Just don't let your bread touch your main plate. Even if you end up with a blizzard of crumbs all over the tablecloth, your server will skillfully sweep them away between courses. But bread needs butter, you say? Yes, it does, and you shall apply it only using your butter knife and with one attempt. Personality Tutor notes that you should never stick your knife in the butter dish repeatedly. Part of the fun of dining at a high-end eatery is feasting on fancy-ish foods. But of course, there are rules for nearly each vegetable. Asparagus is one of those seemingly sophisticated vegetables you'd imagine tackling with a fork. Yet, unless it is served as an accompanying side or drenched in sauce, you can eat asparagus with your fingers. Pick up the spear near the stem and dip the tip in any accompanying sauce, and leave any tough stems on the side of your plate. Manual rules also apply to the artichoke. Peel each leaf off before dipping the round edge in butter or sauce. Use your teeth to scrape the flesh from the edge before discarding the leaves on your plate. Once you reach the artichoke heart, use a knife and fork to finish it off.
That's a chilled salad fork. It's a fancy restaurant, you know.
On the flip side, flatware is your friend when dealing with fruit, which should be cut and sliced using a knife and fork. For fruits bearing pits and stones, including olives, discreetly spit the offenders into a spoon or your cupped left hand before placing them on the edge of your plate. The topic of asparagus and artichokes and their potential to be dipped in butter and hollandaise sauces brings us to the issue of double dipping. Yeah, you know who you are. When it comes to shared sauces, etiquette.com pointed out the obvious, noting, "This can be a nightmare and you need to be aware of avoiding the double dip."
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again.
Of course, double dipping occurs when you dip a piece of food into a sauce, take a bite, and then dip the bitten end back into the sauce. Modern Manners compares such an act to licking something you then expect all of your friends to eat.
I'm a little bit overwhelmed.
Yes. Oh, God, I'm so glad you said that. I was about to say the same thing.
To avoid contaminating both the sauce and your reputation, carefully gather a modest portion of sauce onto a spoon and create a saucy lagoon on your plate next to the food it goes with. You can then politely let loose with double and even multiple dips in the comfort of your own personal space. With everything that's already on the table, you'd think there wouldn't be space to add yet another element. Even so, some diners feel the urge to clutter precious space with personal objects, a major faux pas. According to Best Life, even if you aren't constantly peeking at your phone, placing it on the table is almost worse than checking it throughout a meal. The outlet also condemns wallets, purses, hats, keys, and any other non-food presents for polluting the purity of the dining environment.
There are certain things that are just not done.
The taboo against keys on the table is particularly prevalent in Sweden. According to Scandi Kitchen, this belief supposedly stems from sex workers who placed their keys on restaurant tables to show that they were open for business. Over time, the sentiment transformed this commercial code into a bad luck omen. To this day, if you're dining in Sweden or with a Swede, someone will likely urge you to pocket your keys. As Yummy generously acknowledges, it's okay if you absolutely must take pics of your food. However, should you need to take care of other urgent digital business at a fancy restaurant, experts recommend doing so in the restroom, out of sight of other diners. The loo is also the space to engage in flossing or otherwise picking at your teeth. There, you may also feel free to dab at any spots or spills that may have happened at the table, or to fix your hair or makeup, or even, as Listverse advises, blow your nose. Ultimately, as long as you do it in the restroom, basically anything goes, the exception being that you shouldn't announce the exact details of what you're about to do. According to Food and Wine, if you have to leave to use the restroom, excuse yourself, but do not say why.
Where are you going?
I'm going to the ladies' room.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favourite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.